Hello everyone, this is Brandon Despia. Thank you so much for watching and having a conversation with me about Branded. Today we got another deck list by the GOAT himself, Andre Torres. Another top 16 Branded deck list. Let's see what he's been cooking up. I recently saw a video from Metagames GX talking about how his deck had some input from Andre Torres himself. I'm assuming that has something to do with that Stardust Dragon I saw in that deck list, so I'm going to take a look at this and see exactly what's going on here. Maybe he's running it as well, or perhaps he'll give some insight into what else he's doing in his deck. I'm very strongly considering Stardust Dragon in my Master Duel build because there's a lot of Fallen in the Virtuous going around right now, as well as Board Breakers. So that might be the play for the short term. Not sure how it's going to go with the Corey set afterwards. We might not have room for a lot of these synchro monsters with the champions coming out, or maybe it is worth it. I don't know. I already know I'm dropping Grand Guignol to 1, but that's mostly to fit in Exousia. So what else am I going to be changing? I might get inspired by this, and we're going to find out right now. Let's learn more about Branded together. Like, comment, subscribe, and the bell for notifications. And if you want to support the channel, you're going to get new cards from the new Chaos Origin set. Use my affiliate link for tcgplayer.com. You get whatever you want, and just by simply doing that, you'll be supporting the channel. And we really appreciate it. We just got YouTube partnered, by the way. Thank you so much for doing that for me. It means a lot. All you gotta do is just post a comment, thumbs up the video, and just keep on watching. Give me your comments, your constructive criticism, what you think about Branded in this video. There will be more content coming very, very soon, including a For Beginners Guide video series on Branded in general. I'll also be posting a video on things that people are not doing against Branded that are costing them matches they should have won. And I think you'll very much be looking forward to that, especially if you are hating Branded in Master Duel. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into the video.
Bueno, estamos aquí en el hotel de vuelta. Después de un fin de semana muy bueno, muy bueno.
No auto dub this time, unfortunately.
Hicimos top 16 en el Conti.
Really good weekend, huh?
Quería hacer top 8, quería intentar llevarme un trofeo. Siempre me quedo en top 16, siempre me quedo en top 16. Hay mucha gente.
I always finish in top 16. A lot of people are like, oh, but how annoying.
Ya va el mundial y quiere.
I mean, it kind of sounds like first world problems, right?
Para mí, yo realmente si hacía top 8 me tocaba con algún amigo, pues iba a dejar que avanzara ya.
You can hear the disappointment in his voice, to be honest.
Entonces por aquí tenemos Baylor, Trooper, el sobrecito del día 2, Price Card Super.
There's a lot of envelopes there, man.
Ultra.
What's going on here? Is Andre Torres being invited to Smash? I mean, seriously, look at all those envelopes. He already got the invite, guys.
Todo muy chévere, muy lindo, muy bonito. Y bueno, esta vez hicimos top 16 con Branded, sí, esta vez sí jugamos Branded.
Alright, 40 Carter.
Te le gusta la razón por la que vienen a ver. Cartas así raras, así, sí tenemos un par, bueno, raras no, pues sí hay unas cosas diferentes. Esta es la lista que yo subí al MetaFight desde hace 2 semanas y mucha gente no creía que la fuera a jugar, pero bueno, lo que yo subo ahí es porque lo va a jugar y considero que es lo mejor.
Alright, that's what you got, man.
Pues, bueno, obviamente, pues 2 blancos y un niga, 2
He means Black Albaz, guys. Like, just chill. Alright, so just relax.
Esta vez estuvimos con 2 Ecclesia.
Alright.
La razón, bueno, porque
Two Ecclesia.
Poner la carta 45 y no sabía qué poner y
Wait, is he running 45 or 44?
Ya me he dado cuenta, jugué 45 en Fairy, 45 en Branded.
So you played 45? Okay.
Vendía jugar 45 cartas o 40, es la misma cosa, exceptuando que sea un deck así que
yeah.
que realmente necesito.
So I agree with him on this. Whether you're running 45, as long as you're looking at the numbers and the ratios and you're putting in the work with the math, 45 and 40 isn't really that big of a deal. People run 40 because they feel like they have to run 40 without really explaining why they feel that way. There is enough non-engine that is valuable and very high quality, and enough starters that are very high quality in Branded right now to where 45 doesn't mean anything compared to a 40. In fact, you just give yourself a little bit more gas, which actually gives you a little bit more advantage against the mirror match, because I know a lot of Branded players do not like the mirror match. For example, running Cocktatorium, you have more room for an extra branded opening. You have enough room for an extra sub-engine, like if you like the Castira engine, for example, which can also go into branded if you have room for Arsenal Falcon, for example. I've been really into that lately, but I've been running a 42 card deck in Master Duel with that, and it works just fine. But, you know, you can run enough non-engine, especially if you're running the droplets as well, and you'll still have plenty of good cards to draw into, you know, especially if you're leaning towards the board breaker side. You know, Branded, which Branded should be doing right now anyway. A lot of the hand traps aren't it, although I still do like Ash Blossom in the side and Droll in the mainer side, and obviously Bistles is kind of like the main things we're running anyway, but most of our stuff is board breakers, and when you run a higher deck list, board breakers are easier on your math, because you really only need to see like one or two along with your engine to really pop off, whereas with hand traps you kind of want to see 2 or 3 to really stop an opponent's turn. So here we go.
Una quem, creo que una es súper importante.
Okay, one quem,
no
one quem.
Todo es de structure, sí. Pero
Everything is structured, but we're poor. What do you mean? Why do you say that?
Un Cocktatorium.
All right. I'm glad he's running the Cocktatorium still. I've seen a lot of people drop it off, and it's unfortunate. I do think it's a better, it's better than Starly Safer. No one's really running Starly Safer anymore, although I did see a Decade video where someone was running in a 60 card build, which I think that's probably the best place to run it. Back to TCG though, a lot of people, if they don't want to run a more than 3 of an Aluber, right? Aluber like for their normal summon. So if they run 3 Aluber, they're not running Cocktatorium. If they're running Cocktatorium, they run 2 Aluber. I understand the ratio, but if you're running 45, you can afford the 3 Aluber. The only caveat to that is I would still do the 2 Aluber, 1 Cocktatorium if you are potentially running the Springens kit, which I don't know if he's running yet. You want to have many options? That is true. Another valuable point there about Cocktatorium that makes it better than the Gold Sarcophagus. Not only does it give you an extra body that makes your combos, your lines a lot easier, it is a way to play under certain hand traps in in situations where a single hand trap could really disrupt you, because you're not always gonna have the like great hands, right? So if you have a Aluber and Cocktatorium in your hand, obviously if you summon the Aluber and go High Spirit, you're gonna have an explosive combo. But if you're worried about Imperm or Veiler just completely shutting out your turn because you have no other follow-up after that, then your best bet is to go Cocktatorium instead, because at least it avoids Imperm Veiler. They're forced to use Ash at that point to really stop you from getting access to Walbaz, which really puts pressure on them, because, you know, ashing a Mercurier banish effect is essentially a death sentence if you have Nadir Servant or Branded Fusion line. So they have to, it really puts pressure on your opponent to really to be very careful with their Ash Blossom, right? However, if you go Aluber, they can hold the Ash Blossom, go Imperm Veiler on your Aluber, and then hold the Ash for the follow-up, which is the opening Nadir Brafu, right? So there are situations where Cocktatorium is just better to summon if in those niche situations. But if you have a way to follow up through an Imperm Veiler anyway, then usually Aluber is better, especially if you have a way to get to use the Cocktatorium for something else like High Spirits. So just something to keep in mind.
Porque pues al menos si buscamos con el Mercurio directamente a la mano el Albas, no perdemos al Droll. Mientras que pues,
so you don't lose the draw.
Yeah. En las que si no buscamos High Spirit y nos hacen Droll es como la Ecclesio, la Dogma,
right.
Obviamente.
Yep, this is pretty much standard at this point.
Muchísima gente jugando 3 de esto, incluido
most lists in TCG and Master Duel are like this. I saw 3 of those needed. I don't think three is needed for Shredder Dragon. Just FYI, it's considering how tight a lot of branded lists are right now. It's hard to justify it when you know they're hard once per turns. Yeah, you want to increase the chances of seeing it, but you got to remember you have many ways to access it. You can have many ways of putting it in your graveyard, putting it in your hand with the Dear Servant. You have High Spirits to search for when you have other options to go around. Like, you're gonna have plenty of opportunities to get this card. This card shows up a lot more at 1 than you would think. So I would keep it at 1, and if you want to run a secondary card that does something like that in terms of drawing you into your engine non-engine, especially against Cool Tune, I would just say the second copy should just be like a Talents, right? Just be Talents.
I
prefer you put the Visions. I like Visions too. I really like Vision. But if I run 45, I usually try to fit Visions no matter what.
Pero cualquiera de las otras cartas que veamos, pues es bueno. Aquí viene la parte que todo el mundo discute.
So it comes the part everyone argues about and says, "Oh, those black decks, how do they work? What do you mean?" Oh wow, he's running a lot of bricks. Okay, so now I've mentioned in multiple videos before, Branded is in a very unique position because a lot of the quote-unquote bricks are very high value cards that do other things outside of being in the coming from the deck or the hand or graveyard, right? So, for example, if I have a brick in my hand, my deck is a fusion deck, which means naturally those materials, if constructed properly, which is very easy, lights and darks, for example, they're going to get used they're going to get dual usage, right? Now, let's look at all the bricks he shows here. He has. Start from the right, we have the Golden Sword Soul. Golden Sword Soul has a relevant in-hand effect. It's a hand trap that negates and can destroy, but also it is a great extender. Getting it in the graveyard in some fashion is almost always great, right? You can use it on your turn, you can use it on your opponent's turn to resurrect cards from the graveyard. Very, very good. He's running the Dark Lord Googlet. This makes it so Branded is the only deck that can search for the Fallen, the Virtuous, and Forbidden Crown / Droplet, which is very, very broken, right? If you have the room for it. And a lot of people have not been running because they just don't want to go over 40. Now on the field or in a grave, now this one is probably one of the more controversial bricks because it's not like Golden Sword Soul where it has dual usage, right? From 2 different locations, right? Golden Sword Soul is useful in the hand and in the graveyard. Googlet's only good in the graveyard if you discard it. But oftentimes I've noticed that Grand Guignol doesn't really have a valid, my combos, Grand Guignol doesn't really have a valid target to send because I've already dumped my fusions in the graveyard. I already have my setup to get the Dogmatic Ecclesia, dump something else, and then, send multiple fusions with the Fallen and Virtuous and have my 2 of the 3 main fusions I want in my graveyard in the first turn, which would be the Dogma Dragon, the Red Albion, the Titanic Lad, right? Your first turn usually wants to set up at least 2 of those 3 in the graveyard. If I have something like that set up, or even just one of them, then my Grand Guignol, I'm noticing, doesn't do too much more than that. So having a card like Googlet, is actually amazing for your end board, being able to get Crown or Droplet, right? He's probably doing a 1-in-1 Crown and Droplet because he has the Googlet, I'm assuming. So just something to think about, right? Especially if you're going to run 45, I think you can make room for Googlet, and I probably will do the same thing. When I run 60, I'm 100% doing that. The Springen's Kit. Springen's Kit makes perfect sense. He's running Cockatorium, and he's running the Mercurial Brick. I said before that if he's running 2 Aluber instead of 3, he's the one. Aluber's being replaced by Cockatorium for added versatility and diversity in his starters. But I would still run 3 outside of the situation of what he's doing right here, which is turning that 3rd Aluber again into a Springen's Kit. It's another alternative option to do exactly what Aluber does, although it's a little bit worse in a vacuum. But with Cockatorium, it allows you to remove a huge chunk of the probability of bricking with Cockatorium because it relies on the Mercurial in the deck. So essentially, if you guys don't know, if you run Cockatorum, you kind of want the Springens kit, and you do want the Tri-Brigade Springens kit as well to give you additional monsters to make the special summoning effect of the Cockatorium live more consistently. Right? If you don't run the Tri-Brigade Springens kit, you don't run the Springens kit, it makes sense not to run Cockatorium, to be honest with you. But you really should, and I think these are really good bricks, especially the Tri-Brigade Springens kit. Everybody should be running that card. But if you have the Mercurier in your hand, you have a way to put that card back into your deck so that Cockatorium is live again. And that does come up quite often. Well, that doesn't come up quite often. It comes about like 1% of the time. Less than 1% of the time, to be honest, depending on your deck size. And how many Cockatoriums you run. But if you're running one Cockatorium, I think in a 40-card deck, it's like it's not even 1%. It's barely 1%. If you're running 45, it's like less than 1%. So, that makes sense to me. And, you know, being able to get cards from the banished pile is also gives you added versatility and utility. I know I'm stuck here too long, I'm sorry, but Tri-Brigade Springens kit, nothing to be said here. A lot of people have not been running the Fairy Tale Snow, myself included, although I have been testing TCG lists with it, just not really showcasing it recently, which I probably will definitely do in Master Duel. There's this misconception that you really should not be running this card unless you are running a large deck list. And the fact that this card, and because he's running the Golden Sword Soul as well, he has a synergy there that's really insane. This is also a level 4 spellcaster, so being able to special summon it, provide an interruption that opponents have to respect, right? And allow it to multiple times be available for synchro material or for fusion material. That's really powerful. And now in a 40-card deck, it could be a little awkward because you run out of cards pretty quickly to use in your graveyard after the one copy of the snow. I can see you having that argument, but it really isn't that bad, to be honest with you, when you consider the fact that you're going to be able to filter and return a lot of the banished cards anyway with Sword and Dogma, for example, and Lubellion the Syrian Dragon. So it may be time to start trying this card out more as like a secret option. If you have it in your hand, it's easily discardable of High Spirit and other effects to special summon and use its effect. It still is an okay normal summon to add to what else you're doing. If you're you have other other special summons happening, you can use your normal summon for this as well. It's not the worst thing in the world. So I'm glad that he's at least trying it out. And honestly, the brick argument falls flat slightly, when you run bricks like this in Branded, because of the reason I stated.
Los bricks, amo los bricks, me encanta. Me encantan los bricks.
You love bricks?
Es la única manera de no perder el mirror.
It's the only way to not lose the mirror. Great point.
El mirror tiene un tema y es que si tú no tienes este tipo de
45 with those bricks helps a lot.
Entonces,
your ceiling increases substantially.
Los mirrors se vuelven muy pierdes en el grind.
You've heard people say the phrase, it's like a hand comparison match, in many situations, which is why April in one of the videos I saw on that channel, April said that the argument for 60 could be against the mirror. Well, that same logic applies for even 50 or 45, right? So by going 45, and I mentioned this before, this is a sweet spot for Branded because it gives you a higher ceiling, but the deck isn't big enough to where you're not going to see your engine and non-engine enough, because there's still enough very high quality cards on both fronts to have room for it, to have access to, and it gives you a little bit of pressure off of your sideboard.
Estas cartas dan ciertas ventajas en distintas ocasiones.
I love this.
El juego largo generan que uno pueda terminar ganando los mirrors. Tuve como unos 6 mirrors en total.
6 mirror matches in total? Jesus. You didn't lose any of them?
Como esto.
Well, if you have 6 mirror matches, that's crazy.
Poder buscar crown, O sea, cuando el juego
Yeah.
entra en un estado de juego donde el skill es más importante que
Your
abrir
skill is
bien,
more important than
y
opening.
ambos
Yeah.
abrimos bien y ambos tenemos la posibilidad de yo rompo tu mesa, monto la mía, tú rompas mi mesa, montas la tuya, yo rompo tu mesa, pero ya no puedo montar una mesa.
But I can
Ahí
no
es
longer
donde
set up a
estos
board.
carros
Yep.
empiezan a tomar valor,
You just
para
outgas them.
recuperar la counter, de la removida es como hago counter, el siguiente turno remuevo la counter y la recupero, y al otro turno la recupero otra vez, recupero todos mis recursos, eso ya me dio una ventaja.
And look how powerful his Branded Fusion becomes when you have cards like Googlet and even the Snow, right? I don't know if he's running Sword yet. That's another brick, to be honest. I'm actually thinking about testing bringing back Branded Banishment over Sword. But Branded Fusion has always been a card that people have been considering, cutting at one point because the power of it dropped due to our desire to focus more on getting out the Synchro Ecclesia, which makes sense. But Branded Fusion is still Branded Fusion, so people have dropped the power level, which requires a brick in many cases to maximize its potential. People still win with it, of course. But the mirror matches is going to be the issue for a lot of people, or certain matchups where that deck can also grind with you, right? There's going to be decks coming out that will be able to grind with you. I think the Chaos deck can probably grind with us really well. I think the Alistair packages, not necessarily the pure version, but like a hybrid packages with the new Alistair stuff are going to be able to really disrupt us because they're going to have access. They're going to be able to grind with us, especially if they run the branded stuff, but they also have access to floodgates and massive disruption of our extra deck. So this is kind of like the thing that's going to help us even that odd, right? Even those odds. I really do think the Chaos Alistair stuff is going to be a problem for Branded. Unless Branded kind of takes a little bit of what they're doing and adds it to what they're doing as well. That may force us to adjust some of our bricks too, but we'll see.
Enorme sobre el oponente, puede hacerle el doble counter y devolver 4 fusiones.
Being able to double counter and return 4 fusions. Wait. Are you talking? Is he running 2 Retribution?
O la Retribution.
I must have saw that wrong.
Poder buscar droplet o crown en medio de una partida en la que el juego se pone en un estado de juego donde cualquier carta de impacto gana.
Being able to search for it in a simplified state is a game breaker. That's right.
Okay, en este punto del juego ya voy a descartarlo con una super poli, o lo voy a botar con Grand Wigno, o lo voy a botar con el Albas.
There's plenty of ninja ways to discard, is what he's saying.
Va a ayudar mucho más.
So it's not that big of a deal. I think a lot of it what I mentioned before, right?
El Sword Soul hace que el turno 1 sea de mucho más impacto, hace que el combo de Omega Ecclesia y Grand Wiggle sea.
He's running Omega
mejor.
still?
Y después de volver esto al cementerio es un punto más que ellos tienen que atacar y yo no, porque ellos pueden remover su Ecclesia y yo puedo remover y renacer mi Ecclesia, puedo remover
and then go into,
renacer mi Quen, puedo renacer mi Cartesia y después volver a poner esto en el cementerio.
So those are situations he's talking about where the Golden Sword Soul gets used to make his end board even stronger. Which the argument can be made you kind of need to do that with a lot of the power creep that's going to be happening very, very soon. And the fact that people are more used to playing against Branded and what their normal lines usually are. Although I do think a lot of people are still hand-trapping that deck wrong. But then being able to get it back in the graveyard or have it in the graveyard instead of using it on your first turn, being able to give you another resurrection option for interruption that's kind of like, in many cases, people are caught off guard by, right? They'll use their interruptions to deal with the obvious things, Quem Resurrection, Grand Guignol, Banish to get something, Rinbroom, for example. But more often than not, people don't have enough to also stop the Golden Sword Soul, which is very, very cool.
Operarlo con la trampa, volver a mandarlo al cementerio, o sea, este tipo de cartas generan ese tipo de ventaja. Esto, empezar a ciclarlo, botarlo para renacer el Mirror Jade.
I actually thought about running 2 kits.
Que obviamente
Trivigate Spring's kits, I mean.
Donde yo vaya, desde que esté legal, va conmigo. En juego largo, poder Snow,
It's probably not necessary though.
Cuando
Looking at this.
Normalmente no se hace tan rápido en el Mirror, hay gente que quiere hacerla desde turno 1. Cuando uno puede hacer Brand Fusion después de 2-3 turnos, o la segunda Brand Fusion que uno activa, poder botar la Snow y hacer el Albion.
I see what he's talking about. So he's giving an example of why the Snow is so busted. And I mentioned this before. Having access to this card with a branded fusion later in the turn, especially when you banish the Mercurier for your earlier effects, which you often will do if you're running Cockatourium. This not only gives you an additional really powerful card to play off your branded fusion, but it also synergizes with the Golden Sword Soul, which I mentioned before.
Mover algo y tener la interacción de la Snow ya para defenderse es muy bueno. Entonces amo estos bricks. Sí, me encantan y los voy a seguir jugando.
If you guys don't know what Snow does, it banishes 7 cards from the graveyard, special summons itself in Book of Moons. Right? It's a Book of Moon and on a monster, there's no restriction on how many times you can do it. So it's notorious in 60 card branded lists, but he's running it in 45, I believe. So, man, I appreciated him running see when I look at, and this is why I suggest everyone that we should do more of these reactions, because sometimes people are afraid to try things because of what they hear people say, right? Even though they know Branded's a versatile deck, for example, they're afraid to try running Golden Sword Soul and Kit for a Tri-Brigade Spring against Kit, for example, because enough content creators are saying, oh, don't do that, don't run bricks, disgusting, if you do this, you're behind. Try it anyway, do it anyway. Everyone's playstyle, everyone's experience with Branded is different. Everyone's builds are for the most part different. Yeah, a lot of us are net decking, I get it, but you're not that player piloting the deck. You play differently. And so one of the most important things for me was to understand what kind of player I am, for me to have the most fun and understanding how I should build Branded. I've pretty much figured out that I'm a very aggressive player. So these aggressive plays fit more with my style. This deck fits more with my style. I've tried the hand traps and I just don't have nearly as much fun. And I feel like I'm leaving things off the table when I play a lot of times. So don't be afraid to try different things, even if someone says, like, if you go to a content creator and they say, I don't know about that, X, Y, and Z, that sounds really bad. You gotta remember, they're most of the time, not always, they're going off their shotgun reaction to that. You know, you can take the information, put it to the side for your notes, but still give it a shot and you can see if you can verify the information, see if that's correct, right? Don't just take what anyone says immediately and just say, close the book on it, I'm never doing this again. That kind of fear to test the unknown is what holds you back as a player a lot of times and becoming something unique among Branded players.
Y triple fuga, son mis únicas handtraps, como saben, así en
Okay,
el tampoco jugué.
this is pretty much normal here. Didn't play Ash, me neither.
Que no juegue muchas handtraps. Entonces Ash sola
Yep.
no sirve para nada. Magnamut no lo robé nunca.
This is pretty much what people feel about Ash right now for Branded. Not really trying to run it for the most part.
Branded Fusion.
Especially when you have a sideboard.
3 High Spirits.
Oh, those High Spirits look nice, bro.
Jugar, y aquí viene, bueno, todavía no. 2 Opening.
2 opening.
El opening, digamos que el deck se ha vuelto más de fusiones que de
I thought maybe he would be running one of that because he was running 2 Aluber. You see them, even though there's a Quem there. Okay.
Entonces no está tan mal.
This probably means he's definitely running 45.
De pronto me hubiese gustado tener un tercero en vez de la Eclesia para aumentar como la probabilidad de abrir mejores manos.
Increase the probability of opening better hands.
Aluber Quem, Cockatourium.
Yeah, higher starter counts.
Mixear un poco, tener opciones para los juegos en los que quiero como jugar más con el estado de juego del oponente.
Okay.
Y esto yendo segundo cuando uno no va a pasar por los sincros es muy bueno porque
it's very good going second, of course, because you're following the fusion route more.
Buscar el Aluber más fácil.
So he likes higher density starters.
Pues es bueno. Vamos que esta fue mi insignia del torneo.
I would guess his starter count is more in the 70. I would guess just off of this. Is that fusion duplication? Wow. Wow. Okay, we're bringing back fusion. Wow, this is crazy. Okay. So what was I gonna say? So now, if he's running fusion duplication and double branded opening, his experience is telling him he's having a little bit of trouble going second without those hand traps. So he's trying to mitigate that with additional options for going second. So obviously in branded, this would get you Cartesia, right? Or this would get you Fallen of Albaz, which can get you Wallbaz. You can't do anything but fusion summon anyway. But this is essentially, this gets you Fallen of the White Dragon. You know, get Ecclesia, get Albaz. So he has more access to it. You know, a lot of people have dropped this card for a lot of reasons why they dropped the branded opening to 1. Right? So let's hear him talk about why he put those in there.
Bueno, esta es la imagen nueva y yo también me confundí.
The new image, yeah.
No los entiendo. Fusion Deployment tiene varias ventajas y como lo expliqué en el Metafile, la razón para mí para jugar esta carta por encima.
The reason for me to play this card over Nadir Servant. He's playing it over Nadir Servant? I was wondering how he had the room. Bro, what? I don't know about that. Alright, let's hear what he has to say. So the reason why he's playing this over Nadir Servant is specifically because the mirror match. And Kill 2. Going second with Nadir Servant against Kill 2 mirror match is a losing position because you can no longer make Albaz on the face. You can no longer make... Oh, I see. That's why. While Nadir Servant can get access to Albaz, it's significantly better as a going first card. Because once you commit to Nadir Servant going second, you pretty much lose access to, and your opponent loses the fear of being hit with an Albaz during the end phase into losing their board via a fusion. You know, super poly effect. My question is to Andre. There has to be a way to run both, right? Because I still think the Nadir Servant is way too good going first to remove it entirely. Unless he put the Nadir Servant in the sideboard. Because those fusion monsters you're sending to the graveyard, that's really, really good. Those are really, really good. The Nadir Servant has always been really iffy going second, even though it's improved. I really like seeing these justifications and reasonings for it, because when you talk to these branded players or when you listen to them, you know they're not just saying stuff out their ass. They're making sense here. I understand why this card is in there, and honestly, I agree with them. I want to middle ground it though. If I was to run 2 Nadir Servant and 2 of this, I think that's my sweet spot. Because I don't think, especially in Master Duel where you don't have a sideboard, I would still want the Nadir Servant, and I've dropped the Nadir Servant to 2. I appreciate this. I do like this. This makes sense to me. I would be shocked if he's not running the Nadir Servant in the side. Straight up. But let's see what he has more about this.
O botas cualquier cosa, pero no puedes jugar cómodamente en la end phase.
You can't play comfortably in the end phase.
Cuando en el momento en el que tú activas Nadir Servant, tener un mirror de branded,
maybe Nadir Servant having mirror branded,
no le puedes hacer Albaz.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here is that when you're playing against a mirror match, it's a lot more annoying for your end phase to go off because they know they know what branded does, right? If you're playing against a branded player in a mirror match, there's a high chance they know exactly what's going on. Because usually you see a branded player, they're very... Let's be real here. Branded's a really good deck, but it's a hard deck to play. You have to play with it for a long time and know the intricacies. To really play the deck at a high level, right? So if you're playing against a branded player, like you have to really outsmart them. You have to show them something that they don't have. You know what I mean? That's where the extra 5 cards might come into play here. I might actually try 2 copies of branded of this card in the in Master Duel for sure to give the test run. Increase it to 45. We'll see. I like his reasoning though.
Jugar de una manera totalmente diferente. Mientras que jugar Fusion Deployment te abre acceso más rápido a la Cartesia.
Faster access to Cartesia.
Y te abre acceso más fácil a los albas. Y obviamente pues los albas llegan con efecto. Esto puede traer la Eclesia, buscar.
Going Fusion Deployment. You can't go Fusion Deployment, by the way, after you go into your Ecclesia route. It's similar to branded Fusion where you can't do anything but Fusion Summon the turn you activate this. So it's not like I can go do my route with the Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon and then play this. It doesn't work like that. This is really mostly a going second card. Right? In his mind. Man, I gotta say, man, very interesting this card's coming back.
Entonces muchas veces activar el Fusion Deployment y traer un alba sin necesidad de activar efectos simplemente nos da acceso más rápido a la Super Poly. Es como jugar todas estas cartas son tardes
the Super Poly of OG Albas.
Entonces necesitamos hacer más maneras.
We need to make more ways to get Super Poly better.
Como no es que no tenía que hacer la Super Poly, pero jugar estas 3 cartas hace que la Super Poly sea mucho más fuerte. Aparte de todo,
more consistent access to a Super Poly effect via engine is more threatening overall. That is true. It is scarier when this happens after your opponent's been doing all their interruptions and stopping you from even reaching Albaz. My response to that is a lot more players are waiting for the Albaz to come out and then they just stop it right there. So, against an opponent who doesn't do that, this would be great against them, right? But for me, letting the Albaz hit the board and activate its effect is probably what I would do regardless of whether you're running this card or not. And then stopping it would fall in the Virtuous. Alright, moving on.
Si ustedes ven todos los llamados, mal llamados bricks, absolutamente todos son mucho mejores.
All of them are much better.
Si los puedo fusionar con Cartesia,
like confuse them with the Cartesia.
Entonces,
another reason there. Okay.
De abrir con esto, traer Cartesia y sacarme los super hiper mega bricks que ustedes detestan de la mano para poder hacer Grand Wignall.
So the fusion deployment, getting a Cartesia allows him to make his bricks less bricky. Remember, Brandon is a fusion deck, so bricks in the deck, as long as they're the right bricks, aren't nearly as bad in Brandon because they will often be used as fusion material, and a lot of the bricks that Brandon likes to play has graveyard application.
Hace que estas cartas se conviertan mejores. Ya, si robo esto y esto, entonces traigo, fusiono, voto, busco y ya puedo botar una fusión desde el extra.
Yeah, that's very good.
Son cartas que robarlas no está tan mal.
Very, very good. But he's saying, like, for example, deployment, Cartesia on the board, fuse with the Googlet, get Grand Guignol, chain link, and you can chain block too. So you can chain block the Grand Guignol with the Googlet, for example, and then the Googlet can search for or threaten to search for a board breaker. Which, oh, man, I might have to go back to Googlet because that's just a stupid. Like, I'm shocked a lot of people aren't running the Googlet anymore, but I'm not shocked, right? Because like if you're running 40, I don't know where you're taking out to fit it, right? If you're running triple of any of the forbidden cards, one of them becoming a Googlet makes the most sense to me, to be honest. So your Grand Guignol puts in heavy work.
Si tenemos cartas como estas, obviamente si yo tengo Nadir y esto es como malísimo, pero si yo tengo en vez de Nadir Fusion Deployment para tener acceso a Cartesia con todos estos llamados bricks, obviamente pues va a ser mucho mejor. Y aparte de todo, pues obviamente.
Okay, so there's multiple reasons for running it. I do like it. I still want Nadir though.
Traigo cualquier monstruo y ya puedo hacer Super Poly. Son combos de 2 cartas, sí, pero igual Nadir con Super Poly no sirve. Nadir con los bricks no sirve. En cambio esto, poder traer el alba.
So in his mind, Nadir Servant is just a more versatile Super Poly in many ways.
El albas, fusionar fusionar el Salem del
Although
oponente
you know, not
y
super
después
poly
sí
exactly, of
jugar.
course.
O sea, son como líneas de juego que abren
I'm gonna
posibilidades.
play the
Sé que
open
te
up.
bloqueas a no
Okay.
poder hacer sincros, pero es que yendo segundo no interesa.
But
Porque
going
igual
second
yendo
is
segundo
important. Yeah,
hacer
exactly. It doesn't
equilibrio
matter
es
when you're
casi
going
imposible
second.
realmente.
You mostly just want to fusion
Entonces,
anyway.
pues, realmente fueron muy buenas. Mientras el formato tenga tanto mirror match, hay que jugarlas porque realmente si
You have
yo
to
voy
see them because
primero
if
y
I
mi
go
primera
first,
acción es activo
and my first action is
y
activates,
traigo albas, ya le hice check a todo el campo del oponente porque
I've already checked
o
my
él tiene
opponent's side
super
of the field
poly
because
para
either they have
completar,
super poly to
o sea,
counter
puedo
or
usar
I'm
todo,
going to
simplemente
force
activando
everything
esto y
simply by
trayendo
activating
albas.
this.
Porque
and bring out the
ya le
albas.
puedo hacer efectos, sino encadenar la eclesia, puede llegar y más.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh. It's actually very interesting in matches where they are running dragons, right? Because you can bring out OG Albaz or Fall on the White Dragon or just regular Albaz and just go into and threaten contact fusion immediately. So they have to deal with it, which still this is another way to force inefficient interactions again, which Branded is. That's the name of the game for Branded in order to maximize their grind game, forcing improper interactions or just really not efficient ones. Just summoning this and not doing anything, or going into a threatening fusion is always something you want to be able to do. Like force their Fall on the Virtuous, even though we don't like that happening. Forcing their Fall on the Virtuous with their other plays is still really good. So, in many regards, depending on what you discard too.
Tengo prioridad para hacer super poly.
You maintain priority to do super poly.
Oh,
okay. So yeah, like you said, for example, he doesn't even activate the effect; he just super polys immediately.
Estas cartas son, digamos que son muy buenas. Yendo segundo ayuda a romper mucho campos. Entonces, pues no me arrepiento de jugarlas.
Going second helps break a lot of fields. Okay.
Three
Fallen Virtuous.
Junto con un droplet.
One droplet and 2 crown. That's pretty much the ratio people are doing right now. You could do one of each as well.
O sea, es como que son muy buenos yendo primero y muy regulares yendo segundo.
Very good going first, very average going second.
Eso me tiene como,
you want droplet going second, crown going first, basically, is what he's saying.
Con la carta, porque a veces quiero ganar y no puedo, simplemente porque me tocó bajar un monstruo con crown, pero a su vez es como necesito hacer el crown. No sé si realmente 2 sea suficiente porque juego en Grand Wigner los
no, 2 are really enough.
O si debería seguir jugando Fairy Tail y atacar directo. La verdad no sé, tengo que analizar bien porque tuve problemas de juegos que sí le hice crown al monstruo al oponente, pero no pude.
I might have to get his Metafy, dude. I might actually have to get his Metafy.
Obviamente Branded a juego largo va a terminar ganando, pero a veces quería cerrar el juego ya, o sea, no quería dar un turno más y crown no me dejaba.
Don't want to give them another return, and Crown wouldn't let me.
Ni que no los compren, ni que no lo vale. Es muy bueno, es excelente y por eso su valor y gana juegos cuando voy primero. Cuando voy segundo es un poco incómoda, pero...
Are you saying it wins better when you're already ahead?
Call by talents.
Interesting. Call by talents, okay. So he does run the call by.
Nunca, absolutamente nunca robé esto.
You never draw this? Sorry to hear that. Okay, so he is running the Retribution and he's running the sword. Okay. I mean, those are pretty much the main traps people are running. Either they run the Retribution or they go sword Retribution. They don't really do much else. Although in Branded and Master Duel, I am seeing Branded, what's the name of the card? Branded Banishment a little bit more. So that could possibly be explored if you're not running the sword build. But at least with this, we know he has a solid Branded Fusion line in multiple ways. So with this deck, he has actually a lot of strong Branded Fusion lines, to be honest. He really, really, really does. All right.
Que son los bris que todos jugamos. El extraño que el extraño no tiene nada raro, volví al Omega.
Still running Omega.
Hace una cantidad de hand traps que ustedes no se imaginan, entonces poder hacerles. Vamos a una ronda.
Okay, so he's not running Stardust.
For
some reason I thought he would.
Y Harmonia, y logré llegar a Omega. Digamos que por la manera en la que se dio la línea, quedé con Grand Wigner en el cementerio por el High Spirits. Cuando me hizo Harmonia, pude remover el coso, traer Quem, botar, Kit, renacer, hacer Omega, quitarle la última carta y setear un Fallen Y como buen amigo, pues tienes
Okay.
lo que robes contra el Fallen, si no, te va a matar al otro.
I've seen a lot of people drop
Entonces, pues estuvo
Omega
bien,
though.
la
I
verdad,
wonder what his
contra los
thoughts are on
Exodus hay
that.
muchos hand traps, fue
Still
muy
pretty good
bueno.
actually. I doubt he'll
Y
run that.
puso todo por
I have a
espacios,
strong,
entonces,
I have a strong belief he will be dropping that though. Omega, I mean, because every branded player is going to run champions, right? The champions of Sword Soul, and that just seems like just better for turn one stuff. Is there a way to play both this and champions? Yeah, probably. I don't know if I'll drop Mixuzia though, but if I end up doing that, that's probably what my next step would be.
nunca me hizo falta el segundo,
One
pero
dogma
la
per
seguridad.
space. Ooh, what's the other
El
dogma
segundo.
for?
Los dos de estos
What did he remove the other
señores,
dogma for?
obviamente,
Just double
pues,
Grand Guignol?
Staple, me le hicieron cherries. Le hicieron cherries a los dos de estos, pero igual.
Yep.
Después mandé una
So
clase al
far,
cementerio
pretty
y
normal.
con Eclipse devolví el tipo y ya. No, fue como si no hubiera pasado nada. Fue un -1 para él. Un Rimbroom.
Rimbroom,
un Titanic
okay.
Clad,
Titanic Clad.
doble Grand Wignall.
And double Grand Guignol,
Como tengo
okay.
un número tan alto de Spellcasters, entonces me tocó darle prioridad al Grand Wignall sobre el
Spellcasters
segundo.
makes sense.
2 es el número, no me arrepiento.
Probably still dropping the
Estuvo
one with
excelente.
when Corey comes out.
Quarterius como target.
Coritis,
Estuvo
yep,
bien hasta ahí.
makes sense.
Uy, soy un cochino, sí, porque aparte todo es ultra. O sea,
Mirror Jade, yep.
como estaba jugando todo el deck común, entonces dije como voy a jugar lo más cochino posible. Ultra y feo.
Gonna
ni
play as
siquiera
dirty as
estar
possible,
jugando
ultra-
ultra
what?
y feo, porque el deck está todo muy feo, entonces tocaba seguir.
You don't like the
jugando
Starlight?
feo.
Is that what he
Y
said?
Valeratus, como ven, todo es de Destructure, todo brilla horrible.
Everything is horribly
esta cosa,
shiny, huh?
Construct, yo sigo jugando Construct 2.
What? Oh, he's still running that. Brother, I thought you dropped that. I'm not gonna lie. He's still running Constructs. So, okay, so this doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't make sense to me because if he was running 3 Aluber, I would get it more. And I do, and by the way, one of your friends, I believe, I don't know if you'll see this video, one of your friends did tell me to try it out. And I have been testing it, and I get, it wasn't coming up enough for me. And I was with 3 Aluber. Maybe if I was running Tragedy as well, I would consider it, which would be very interesting in larger builds than what you're doing. But let me see him explain it more, because maybe his sideboard has Shaddoll stuff in there.
Quiero briquear con Aluber ni nada.
I don't want to brick with Aluber.
Por el High Spirits y mi target de Super.
Now remember when I said that you will have situations sometimes where you'll have Aluber and Cockatoриum, and sometimes you're going to want to summon the Cockatoриum because it's more hand trap resilient in situations where you just need to get something through. Since you're using that, if you use that normal summon, that means the Aluber kind of stays in your hand, right? And allow you guys to run 1 or 2 copies of opening, so it's less likely you'll see Aluber to special summon. An alternate option, possibly, is probably what you might have been thinking this a little bit. Having high spirits to do something with that Aluber is, is kind of useful, right? Turn it into another branded card. And Aluber does have a graveyard effect. So that does come up when you're trying to break boards. Interesting. Okay. I personally don't feel like I'm dropping a second Dogma for Construct. I just, at this point, no. I don't see it. And either way, this card is being dropped in Corey. I don't see him playing this in the Corey format.
Sí, que este era el target que quería tener.
Mud Dragon, okay.
Porque igual esto quita el campo.
Where's Sea Dragon?
De los,
I mean, Sea Monster.
De los Kilton, porque son Dark ambos, de distinto tipo. Entonces,
okay.
Pues esto sigue sirviendo contra ellos.
I guess this is more.
Realmente nunca.
This is more like Mud Dragon is probably a little bit better against more matchups in general. Everyone's running Sea Monster, which makes sense. Well, most people are. I'm not even running Sea Monster in my main anymore. To be honest, I've stopped running it. And I probably won't be running it in the main and Corey either. So.
Nunca lo bajé. No, o sea, no hice una super polea esto. Realmente no sé qué tan necesario sea. No,
I don't
no
know,
fueron
man. I
muchas
don't think you
rondas,
should run
13
that.
y en 13 rondas no haberlo bajado nunca, pues no sé. Ahora viene el side deck. 3 purulias por patrones de
Purulia,
side
okay.
deck. Esto nunca me salió en la mano, pero bueno.
Most branded sideboards are doing 2 to 3 of that.
El anti-spell.
Yeah, bells.
Le tenemos mucho miedo al Doom.
Okay.
Me tocó
I've seen
un
a lot of
Doom
people either running sphere mode or lava golem. At least with lava golem, you can high spirit it, I believe. I have to double check. Well, I don't feel like double checking right now, but at least with I think you can high spirits that with Poritis. I don't remember if it's a fairy or a Am I talking? No, it's a fiend. It's a fiend. My bad. If it was a fairy, you wouldn't need to put the construct in there. But, yeah.
No robé esto, pero con la Superpole.
This is mostly for Doom Z.
Pues jugaba muy bien. Me permitió
I feel like with the droplets, do you really need it?
Error de comunicación y eso fue lo que me permitió jugar.
If you don't have sphere mode, you can probably use Dark Golem more, by the way, guys.
Entendí bien su respuesta. Y cuando quedamos los dos, ¿qué está haciendo? No, pues usted me dijo no, pero yo dije, eso no era así. Sí, entendí mal lo que me había preguntado y bueno, eso digamos que fue ahí como un error de comunicación. Si él está viendo súper bien porque pues fue muy honesto y entendió que sí fue como un tema de comunicación. 2 Thrust, versión horrible.
2 Thrust.
También, structure.
I mean, he has more targets for it now.
Thrust, un plumero como target del Thrust.
He has more targets with that.
Un lightning como target
And 1 lightning storm? Okay.
El Prison,
if he's running Thrust, he's running Grizel Prison, guys. Oh, wow. That's a great anti-Mitsurugi slash... Hold on a second. I believe Grizel Prison says you can't ritual summon either, right? Or Xyz? No. Is it... I know it stops synchros. But, it's not... So he's running more thrust targets for sure. Especially when he's running 3 copies of the fusion deployment. So Grizel Prison shuts down Cool Tune pretty much by itself. I mean, you honestly just win the game automatically if you can get this off. That's crazy. Might have to bring that back, man. Might have to bring that back, guys.
Anterior, ¿qué carta es esa? ¿Qué carta es esa? Bueno, Ghostly Prison. Si controlo una fusión, el activo ya hace Dimensional Barrier.
You control fusion, it's basically Dimensional Barrier.
Hasta el final del turno, ni atacar con sincros. Entonces, pues, si yo
so the end of the next turn,
me hacen hand traps, todo el tema del Kilton, le hago Trust, seteo, draw face activo y listo. No puedes hacer sincros, me voy.
You know what? If people were okay with going Thrust into Harpy's Featherstorm, then I have no problem with this. Yeah, screw them. Man. Yeah, that'll do it. I actually like this Thrust package, to be honest. Still not a fan of Sphere mode when you're running Thrust because I can just go Dark Ruler no more. I'd rather go double Dark Ruler if I'm running the Thrust package. Right? Just my personal opinion. But I do like where this is going.
Es el turno. Y bueno, gracias por haber testeado tanto, pero no vas a jugar.
You pretty much auto lose there.
Dimensional Coso Ground.
Okay.
Lo mismo.
Dimensional Ground for the thrust.
Aunque es casi imposible que uno
This is late for the mirror.
Si no es porque le hicieron
Although it's
fugo,
possible for one to solve this in the mirror.
Si no es porque le hacen fugo o Bestial, creo que nadie juega. Bueno, hay gente que no juega Ash, pero realmente es difícil que esto resuelva. Entonces, tuve como esa dualidad de querer meter esto junto con esto, pero si la robo no me hacen nada, los voy a tener muertas. Y meter solo esto es como que
I've never really ran different dimensional ground. I never really wanted to get it.
Torneo, pero realmente,
I mean, I might just go get one just because, but I never really ran it.
Y por eso el side deck es como tan random. Pero aquí viene lo más chévere del side deck. Todos son como el deck es tan compacto, realmente cuando uno mira el branded, no son muchas las cartas que uno quiera sacar ni que tiene espacios para sacar. Realmente son muy pocas las cartas que pueden salir, exceptuando las Fugalos. Entonces dije como bueno, como no hay nada que yo quiera poner en el side deck, vamos a hacer lo siguiente, vamos a llenar
What's your
el
side deck,
extra deck.
man? Let's see
Entonces,
it.
por si de pronto si
Okay, so he is siding the sea
más
monster.
tablas de Super Poli, entonces pongamos el Teseo.
Gotcha.
Por si jugamos Mirror y de pronto mucho Fairy Tail.
He is siding 2 fusion monsters. Okay, so this is probably going to be a thing in Corey a lot more because not necessarily Secretarion Dragon. I've actually am considering siding my Abolanatus, which I did not see, by the way, in his extra deck, and the sea monster. I'm actually thinking about doing that instead. But with Secretarion, I think the Chaos stuff is a lot of spellcasters in that, or at least one of the ritual monsters is a spellcaster, so maybe that'll be relevant. Against Branded mirror matches, which seems to be what his focus was going into this tournament. He wanted to have Secretarion. I keep on going back and forth between running it in Master Duel as well, because of the increase of branded matches and Draco Tail still being a thing, as well as you could, in niche scenarios, summon Secretarion Dragon to pin down Azalea, forcing them to target it and destroy it, which gives you an opening to play other cards. Without worrying about the negate, right? So.
Pongamos Secretarion. Que me quiere hacer Lightning Storm, que me quiere hacer Plumero, sí, que me quiere hacer.
Is that a Stardust Dragon? My man, this is crazy. So we saw Metagames GX talk about hint to Andre Torres having a discussion about Stardust Dragon. I actually think this will be very important in the new format too. But in a format where a lot of destruction is being used to deal with either to and Doomsday and Branded do this a lot. They will use destruction effects to enable certain lines. So the Fallen and Virtuous, for example, popping things, and Doomsday doing it a lot for various things as well. So it actually is valid in multiple matchups. A lot of people are using the Fallen and the Virtuous as a generic card, side deck. I mean, not side deck, non-engine, which means cards like Stardust Dragon have a little bit more versatility. Draco Tail Pan still, and Master Duel at least more often, and I believe the Rico. Either the Rico or the other one, I forget, destroys as well. Loudness War can destroy as well. Any negate and destroy cards that aren't counter traps fall victim to Stardust Dragon. This is actually a very interesting tech and meta call for Branded. And I actually think with the way he built his extra deck, he could put the Stardust Dragon in the main if he took out the Mud Dragon. I think this is a more impactful card than the Mud Dragon in this meta for him, especially since he still has access to Sea Monster and he has Dogma Dragon. That's what I would suggest to him. I would love to see him main the Stardust Dragon. I think that's going to come up a lot more than people think. Did he run? I don't think he even ran. He didn't run Borreload or Chaos Starsaurus. A lot of branded decks will run that too. So if you're thinking about the mirror match in that regard, then Stardust becomes an actual threat to pin things down unless they properly, chain block. Which they have to do that, or else this becomes a problem. Very nice, very nice. I'm starting to become more and more convinced to try to play this card, to be honest. Very, very convinced. I may actually replace, I know he's running the Omega. Maybe I would run this over Omega for a while and see how that goes. Because, the third slot, I would want it to be the champion anyway. That might be something I might try to do. Anyways, keep it going. If you're running a Synchro branded build, maybe you even do this. You run that too.
Negué Ogras, negué Harmonias, negué Cartas de un Z.
You're getting Harmonia, exactly.
Administrarme en la mano.
Lightning Storm, Doomsday stuff.
Cartas. Creo que este fin de semana me di gusto jugando cartas viejas, jugué Metamorfosis, jugué Black Witch, jugué Stardust y se sintió demasiado bien porque todas las cartas viejas están
You played Black
muy,
Witch?
muy rotas. Entonces pues nada, este es el deck. Creo que básicamente les hablé mucho de esta carta, fue lo más raro así que jugué. Y la gente creía que era un meme, un chiste.
He called it weird, but they're really just meta calls. They're not really even that weird when you think about it, and he explains it very, very well. You know, I don't even speak Spanish, so, you know, but, I understood what he was talking about here. Brazil Prison was used a lot of times after the ban of, for a short while, after the ban of Dimensional Barrier, to deal with certain matchups. And, you know, Brandon could always use Secretarian, and they always wanted to, they just couldn't find the room for it. But putting it in the side might be the right option here. There's going to be a lot of really cool extra deck monsters that Brandon wants to use when Corey comes out. So we may have to take 2 to 3 spots of our side deck to put extra deck monsters in there. It might have to be a thing. The Thrust package makes sense with the Crizale Prison, the Duster. Lightning Storm can go to 1 because you technically have Axe 3 when you run Thrust. I would prefer Sphere Mode to be Dark Ruler because he's running the Thrust package. Perhaps I don't run the that second trap he has there, the Dimensional card, and I actually run 2 Perulia instead of 3, because maybe those 2 can be like Droll, you know. I think Droll would be nice in this in to have for versatility. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I would not run Mud Dragon anymore. Personally, I'm not a fan of Mud Dragon Garura as much. Doesn't do much for me once they hit the board. I'd rather it be Dogma or Secretariat Dragon, or even the same argument goes for Sea Monster of Theseus for me, to be honest. But you know, I still kind of, you know, Cool Toon's still Cool Toon, right? So, but yeah, he has a lot more to say in the video. I'm gonna if you want to see the rest of it, I would suggest you go ahead and check out the video yourself. Very good list. I will be testing out at least Stardust Dragon in Master Duel for a while. I do think there's a good potential for Stardust Dragon to be played a lot more in the Synchro branded builds, and even in more, especially in decks that run the Golden Sword Soul and Tri-Brigade Springs kit. You should be able to make 3 Synchros really, really easily. If you're unabated, so you know, if your plays are uninterrupted, so that's also something to consider. Thrust package might return. I might see people, you know, me running a 1 of fusion deployment. It seems pretty cool, so I might even try that as a 1 of or a 2 of. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you learned something from this analysis or this reaction. Follow Andre Torres. If you haven't, yet, that's weird. Don't be a fake Branded fan. Until the next time, where we have another conversation about Branded.